preliminary comments or remarks. But first, why do we have to keep renewing our national ID? And Winnie, the director legal, Kabija, you will tell us what happens if I do not renew my national ID? Do I assume a different nationality or I'm stateless legally? The other thing that we want to hear from you is why do we continue hearing cases of forged national IDs and NINs, and they are used anyway? Used anyway. I would not ask you any question if somebody simply got a national ID from some street which is notorious and flags it around. I had a personal experience of somebody who was defrauding people in my name. I reported the matter to police and asked them to investigate. When they investigated, because he had the telephone number he was flagging around, and they said that this person had picked a national ID, had picked a SIM card using a forged NIN. That was the finding of the police. I was surprised, actually shocked. I would understand if he used Okeyo's NIN. But, if he got it and he was not using it officially. But how somebody could go to the extent of getting a SIM card using a forged NIN was shocking, because I know that this is something we had eliminated. So, you have any preliminary remarks that you would want to share with us? Rosemary?
Thank you, Chairman. Nira was established in 2015, 26th March. Today, it is 9 years old. From the time of establishment, it currently has registered 27.4 million persons with NINs and issued 17.3 million cards, although it has printed 20 million. Today, Nira is on the threshold of a major mass enrollment and renewal exercise. From the time of inception, Nira's staffing levels have never exceeded 50%, meaning that the ratio of unregistered Ugandans to staff in Nira is 1 to 80,000. We are present in 112 districts, meaning that we are not present in 24 districts and 10 cities. Nira took over from URSP the roles of birth registration and death registration in 2016. We have managed to operationalize integration and connectivity to 89 agencies, both in the private and public sector. Today, annually, we have about 84 million verifications based on the information that we store. Based on the current census figures of 45.9 million persons, it means that we have not registered close to 45 million, about 18.1 million persons. From the census demographic profile, most of those will be children under the age of 17. Thank you very much, Chair.
How far and how deep have you gone with decentralizing your services? And two, I understand there are those services which you were offering at the embassies for persons living outside the borders, and you have since suspended the issuance of national IDs in a significant number of foreign missions. Is that right?
No, that's not right.
Okay.
We
And
are
with
still issuing national IDs until the next card comes out.
Okay.
Yeah, we continue to issue.
And with the decentralization?
We are in 112 districts.
Okay.
But the profile of our districts is 135 with 11 cities. So it means that we're not in some districts and also not in some cities.
Okay. And what are your plans with respect to those ones where you have not spread your services?
Well, we have tried to advocate for budget for the 24 districts. To no avail, actually, this year. Our budget was cut by 13 billion. So we will work within the confines of the resources made available to try and reach those districts. Thank you.
But are you in close range districts? For example, if you are not in Mityana, you could be in Wachiso, and those people could access from Wachiso, and so on and so forth. Have you mapped out your services in such a way that if someone is not able to access from Chiankwanzi, he can access from Chiboga?
It is in some places so. However, in some places in northeastern and northwestern Uganda, there are some districts that are quite close to each other. There's a bulk of districts that are not, where we are not present, that are quite, I'll give an example of Obongi, I think another neighbor, I think Maracha, one of them, Terego. It's not, they are next to each other, so hopefully would have been in Terego and not in Obongi. If I give an example of Nabila Tuk, Karenga, which are quite apart, Kalaki, Kapeli Byong, we are in some of those areas. They are quite a distance apart from our nearest service points. And people have to travel between 80 to 100 kilometers to access the nearest service.
Like what activities? I mean, for those particular districts, if you were to cover them?
The initial budget for the first year, because we would be buying equipment and chairs, would come to close to 6.7 billion. And then subsequently, that budget would go down because of, we remain with our recurrent expenditures. Yes, sir.
How difficult is it for your staff in those districts to move to those where you have not spread your services? To say 1 or 2 days a week, your officer from District X will visit District Y.
The highest number of people in a district are 2 or 3. So in essence, on our average, in Kampala, we serve at least 600 to 1,000 people a day. In peri-urban areas, we serve 200 to 300 people. And in rural, pure rural areas, we serve 60 to 150. So it still wouldn't be viable for one person to serve those people.
To serve 2 districts?
Yes.
And especially in areas that are prone to some form of insecurity, like in the Karamoja area, that's why it's not possible. Actually,
yes, sir.
Technically not possible. Colleagues, do you have any preliminary questions?
Has Nira in Amaingo, and we are doing very well. Honorable Chair, as a member of Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs, we have been highlighting this year in, year out during the budget process, that actually Nira needs to be empowered in terms of budget for them to facilitate and fast track identification of persons in Uganda. But specifically, I wanted to inquire from the ED, why is it in some instances that one number is owned by 2 or 3 people Then secondly, we know how important it is that a national ID will be necessary for our civic activities. How prepared are you that we can beat the deadline for mass enrollment in preparation for the registration and final elections? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Mine is general, and I want some clarification. For some time, I've been thinking that the authority in charge of issuing passports and those in charge of issuing national ID will be collaborating. But in most cases, I've got the ID, and I want to apply for the passport. I got the same process of asking me the grand and grandfathers, the mother, the what, whose information was subjected to you. What causes that? Aren't you working together?
And they work together when they are different. Besides, supposing you lied in the first place, and they want to trace the kind of person you are. Actually, you will find some people with national IDs, and they fail to get passports on account of who they are. Honorable Nangoli.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Chair, much as you alluded in your communication that you were helped and you got a national ID in one day. But Chair,
a replacement.
A replacement.
Yes.
I would like to bring this to your attention and to the attention of the ED. Is that there are Ugandans, ordinary Ugandans down there.
Yes.
Including some of us. You go apply for the national ID, and it takes 3 to 6 months for you to get, be it a replacement or a new ID. I have people in Bulambuli district. I come from Bulambuli, and I represent the people of Elgon North, who have traveled all the way from Bulambuli to Kampala to come and have their biodata captured once again. And when they go to Bulambuli, they tell them, you can only be helped from Kololo. When they come to Kololo, you know what it is there in Kololo. The line alone, it will take, you have to be there by 6 a.m. in the morning. So, Honorable Chair, to the ED is that you need to throw more light there, give us some update, current update. How are you handling such scenarios for people? Why should people wait for a national ID 3 to 6 months, even more? And yet when you go to driving, where they issue driving licenses, in 3 hours you have your driving permit issued. What?
Actually, in minutes.
In minutes?
Yeah.
Why can't you copy from what? Of course, I know at the start you have had challenges, but by now you would be at a proper line how to issue national IDs.
Well captured.
Thank you so much, Chair.
Will you ask the... Ask him.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. We call you Road Chairman. Good morning. I'm Kwizera Eddie, and I come from Chisoro, Wichimbiri County. I associate myself with what Honorable Nang. They should tell us about their structure. Can I get an ID, a national ID in Chisoro without coming to Kampala? Because there are many people who have suffered.
You see, once you come from Chisoro, you know what Chisoro means.
The Republic, yes.
People will think you do not deserve to get a national ID because the national
they
IDs
can also tell us those who
are
deserve
for human
and
beings.
those who don't deserve. I thank you.
Okay, national IDs are for human beings, not for Bisoro. But he said, yes, Honorable Kwizera comes from Buchimbiri, he's hiding under the animals. Yes, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. We have so many Ugandans, specifically for those ladies who are working in saloons, and then gentlemen who are in construction. like a cement, destroy their fingerprints, and those people cannot access national IDs. Yes, for those men who are in construction, that cement. Yes, and those who are
I've told you I had a challenge with mine at some point. Those machines rejected my thumbprint.
Exactly. So, Madam Idi, how are you trying to help out these people? Because I have so many in Nakaseke, and they will need us to intervene. And how could we help them? These ladies, these cosmetics, destroy their fingerprints, and in the dilemma of accessing public services, medication, and so many other public services in that line.
Now that the first phase you tried to answer for them, I wanted them to answer. You indicated that those who are in charge of giving passports are more strict and perfect, and there are loopholes in those ones giving their ID. That's why you may have forgery IDs and you fail to get the passports. Could you tell us where are the loopholes? Where do you find the problem? Why don't you behave also like those ones of the passports so that you avoid non-citizens and other people duplicating your performance?
Thank you, Chair, for your kindness. I wanted to know from the ED that taking into account where your headquarters are, I wanted to know from you, does it impact on your output? Where you are housed and vis-a-vis what you are supposed to do? Does it impact on it? Because we see the place, ceremonies, occasions, working 2 days a week, the rest of the days. Does it have any impact on your output finally?
You know, when the Vice Chair talked about those people who are digging, did you saw those ones cutting timber? Yes, this is a technology called gait recognition. I think that should be the way for us to go. By people, by their walking patterns, you would be in a position to know this is Alan Mayanja. Yeah, it's a technology. So during that time when I do not have a national ID, what nationality am I? Two, and why do you have to limit to be periodic? That for you to give me my national ID, I should have it for this period of time. Why would it expire? I mean, please tell us. And I want to start with you on that, Winnie.
I'm going to answer the questions in the order in which you asked them. The first question was, why do we keep renewing IDs? Nira, by nature of its mandate, subscribes to the ICAO standards. ICAO standards, yes. Section 5.2 of the Registration of Persons Act obliges Nira to observe the specific industry or professional rules and regulations, and ICAO standards are one of those. Specifically, paragraph 2.2 of the ICAO standard document 9303.
Which you will share with us.
Yes.
Yes.
It recommends a maximum period for a national ID of 10 years. And actually goes ahead to advise states that they can even give a shorter period because of the fact that technology evolves. Now, under Regulation 19, the government of Uganda went ahead to adopt the maximum period, which is 10 years. That is the maximum recommended period. So that is the reason why we renew IDs. And the major reasons given by the ICAO standard is because of the wear and tear of the materials that are used to make the national ID, and also the changing facial features of the card holder and the biometrics.
Yes.
I didn't want to interfere with your explanation, but I wanted you to assume that you were explaining to my mother, to my person in Lakai, not referring to ACAO standards which she doesn't understand? Is it after 10 years that you have
Actually,
changed
tell your mother it's not a cow.
No. Is it after 10 years that somebody's features have changed, so you go with the modern features? Bring that language so that we can know what to tell our people.
Okay, I apologize. The reason, simply put, is that people's fingerprints, biometric features, they wear out with time. So the maximum period that is given by the industry experts is 10 years. Yes.
As to whether I cease to be a national,
yes.
What is the effect of the expiry?
The second was that if I do not renew my ID, do I become stateless or do I lose my citizenship? Uganda is a party to the Convention on Reduction of Statelessness. I know that one, somebody in Chana Mkaka would not understand that. But our law provides that the expiration of a national ID does not take away citizenship. It does not mean that your citizenship will expire. The citizenship of a person, in far as identification is concerned, is hinged on the NIN that is assigned to the individual, not the national ID. So somebody does not become stateless because of an expiration of an ID.
Okay.
The third question, sir, was on fraudulent IDs.
On?
And why are there so many cards that are forged? Yes. From your explanation, I wanted to just answer giving an example. You know that when we are accessing certain premises, including Parliament, we put our IDs at the entrance. So people take advantage of that and take pictures of people's IDs. So if I am a person who intends to forge an ID to access something, I will take a picture of Winnie's card, maybe at an entrance somewhere of a workshop or something. I will take it to wherever I take it, and I will make an ID, but with Winnie's NIN number. So I will forge using Winnie's card. Somebody can easily forge using your personal card when they access it somewhere. So when they go to access a service, the NIN is actually valid. That notwithstanding, we are dealing with forgeries because the law permits us to prosecute under Section 76.
No, that one to me is that I can forge Winnie's NIN.
Yes.
Of course, put on my photo and be able to say if you're coming to Parliament, the police officer will look at the ID and think this is murder. Because it has my photo, it has a NIN and everything. But the question is where somebody goes to the extent of securing a SIM card.
Chair, if you will allow me to explain that scenario. Nira issues a letter called a confirmation of information letter, whereby someone accesses online, enters their NIN, and it returns the credentials of the person. So we observed from the telecoms and banks that people were abusing that process, so it has been further secured with other technologies called public infrastructure. We have had to encrypt the information into what is called a QR code so that we mask away the details. Because what was happening is that someone would get a letter from online, and then they transpose or juxtapose on top of the correct credentials, different credentials. So even as I stand now, telecoms and banks no longer receive those letters. They insist on either an actual ID or a different form of letter or an electronic verification, which we have tried to secure. I'll go on to answer the question still on.
I'm sorry, this is a very sensitive offset of the burden from you. I wanted to know how your system strictly is, either it is modern or not. If I get my smartphone and I get your two names and your telephone number, and I want to install it again, it will tell me it is already there, isn't it? If you have a smartphone, It will not do it the second time. Personally, I've got 2 IDs. When you are starting the exercise, you started with the MPs. The IDs you gave us, after some time, you say we are doing it afresh. You gave us another one. So I opted going with the latest. But the other one is also there. Why couldn't your computers or system reject and say, no, this one has already got?
Honorable, if you will allow me, I request for some time to explain the process so that probably we can see if it's satisfactory, then we can interrogate it further. The process of acquiring a national ID begins with the LC1, the local council.
Could you listen to the witness, please?
1. The local council 1 receives and certifies that a person is either a resident of that area or originates from that area. The person then proceeds to the district internal security officer or the Gombolola internal security officer. Once more, that person validates that the person is a resident of that area. They then arrive at Nira and they fill Form 3, which has 148 areas to respond to. And in that form, because they are citizens usually by birth, they provide us with information of their next of kin, being either father, mother, grandparents on the mother's side, and grandparents on the father's side, to submit their application. Their fingerprints are taken and their biographic information is captured. The fundamental uniqueness of NIRA's system is in the biometrics. The first ID you spoke of was issued in 2010 in a project that didn't take off. And this house interrogated that process, and the 2013-14 process took over from that process. Thank you. And even then, you would not be able to use it. So, the biometrics taken we call them 13 biometrics, or 12. We take your face, and we take your 10 fingerprints, if you have them. The 10 fingerprints, sometimes all 10 don't work. But we try to work with a minimum of 6. If all 10 fail, we pick the 6 strongest fingerprints. At the back of your ID is placed your strongest fingerprint, the one that gave us the best grooves. We have 1 million people on the register who did not satisfy fingerprints. And for those ones, the biometric used for the identification is their face. So you may not have fingerprints, but you have a face. There's nobody who doesn't have a face. In addition, in the new exercise, we are going to add the iris as another biometric feature to support, in the event that you don't have fingerprints, probably your iris will give us a good biometric. In the worst case event that you have neither iris and fingerprints, your face will suffice as a means.
And what is the effect of those rays in my iris?
Those rays, we experience them almost every day, but there's no recorded significant impact on. It's just like a camera, but it's not that close. Actually, it more magnifies to take the print than insert rays. So, still on the issue of the NIN, why do we have scenarios whereby one person has 2 NINs? We have had people, and they are very few and far between, who in one ID, they say, I have no fingerprints. But in another ID, they use their fingerprints. That is why we are now insisting that, okay, let's take an additional biometric. And I'll use that opportunity to answer the question around passports. The reason passports ask you information, again, is data around the world is cleaned by use. When you use data, when you go to the bank and say, my mother is Namatovu, you go to another one, you say, my mother is Kakara. You go to another one, you say, my mother is Kisembo. The triangulation of that information, the bringing together of that information is what begins to flag to us that there is, this person may not be who they say they are. So yes, we have an integration with DCIC. They are able to extract our data. And when you submit your form, they extract our data and compare with what you have written. And many times, people's mothers have changed, people's fathers have changed, their tribes have changed.
Fathers change.
Okay, it is a possibility.
And that one, you ladies are responsible for the change.
Okay, so in essence, we have seen information. When they retrieve the information, they have a connection with us. They retrieve all your form as you gave it to them. There is a dichotomy. And it's that difference that flags that this person needs to give us further and better information concerning who they are.
Because at least I know people whose age has changed.